Okay, well, we are going to start off with some updates, and whoop, didn't get this up. So 1/3 of the U.S. population's background info is now public, and this is kind of an update. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, but there is some more information. MC2 Data and similar companies run public records and background check services. These services gather, compile, and analyze data from a wide range of public sources, including criminal records, employment history, family data, and contact details. They use this information to create comprehensive profile that employers, landlords, and others rely on for decision-making risk management. Well, when that's broken and you have 2 terabytes worth of data, well, on August 7th, the cyber news research team uncovered that the company left the database with 2.2 terabytes of people's data, passwordless. How can they do that? Come on, engineers. And easily accessible to anyone on the internet. Estimates suggest that at least 100 million individuals were affected by this massive data leak. So you think that the ledger leak was bad? This is even worse, because look what they got. Names, email addresses, IP addresses, which means they know where and what ISP that you use, because they can use that against you. User agents, encrypted passwords, partial payment information, home addresses, date of birth, the list goes on and on. Businesses that operate public records and background check services are subject to a strict regulation. They need to comply with various federal, state, and local regulations to ensure that the operations are legal and that individuals' data is protected. Well, it wasn't protected this time. The leak, which our team uncovered, raises concerns about how much entities manage and protect sensitive data. So, I don't know about you, but one of the things that I would do if you're part of this 100 million, and I don't know if they're going to send out and say, hey, you're part of this 100 million, because I don't know if they know exactly who had this leaked. But I would put a credit freeze on the 3 reporting agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And I have had it on for so long that I opened a credit card, which I rarely do. And I opened the credit card and it was declined. And I was like, oh, I know what happened. I forgot to unfreeze. And as part of that unfreeze process, they said, we'll run it again, but it was just a pain. So if you put a credit freeze, which I highly recommend because it's a lot easier to go through maybe an hour of unfreezing and letting the bank know that your credit is unfrozen than having to clean up your credit report because someone has used it to open credit cards to buy a new car, which there's a lot of fraud in car purchases. So it's a lot easier to do it, to be proactive than reactive. So I highly recommend everybody put a credit freeze. There's 2 good reasons for putting a credit freeze. Number one, you get to control when your credit is given out to people. And number 2, you get to control that your credit information is not sold. When your credit is frozen, they can't sell your credit data. That's a big enough reason to do it anyways. So, I know my husband, I don't think he's frozen his, to each his own. I will only give recommendations, but he gets these offers all the time. I don't get any offers because my information is mine and they can't sell it because it's frozen. So as part of that, there are reasons why you want to do that so that you're not put into the sites of scammers. But this Windows PowerShell phish has scary potential. Many GitHub users this week received a novel phishing and email warning of critical security holes in their code. Those who clicked on the link details were asked to distinguish themselves from bots by pressing a combination of keyboard shortcuts that causes Windows to download password-stealing malware. While this is unlikely that many programmers fell for this scam, it's notable because less targeted versions of this are likely to be far more successful against the average Windows user. So this is, against a group that knows a lot, and I want you guys to know about this. But when and if you ever get something that says, like this little image here, visiting that link generates a web page that asks the visitor to verify that you are human by solving an unusual CAPTCHA. If it's not the regular CAPTCHA that you see, I would be highly skeptical that it's real. And this one is, you're going to put a piece of malware uh, all by yourself on your computer if you do this. So clicking the "I'm not a robot" button generates a pop-up message asking the user to take 3 sequential steps to prove that they're human. 1 involves simultaneously pressing the keyboard with the Windows icon and the letter R, which opens the run prompt that will execute any specified program that is already installed in the system. Number 2, ask the user to press the Control key and the letter V, which we all know means paste, at the same time, which pastes malicious code from the site's virtual clipboard. Press 3 is the Enter key, causes the Windows to launch the PowerShell command and then fetch the executed malicious file from the github-scanner.com site called i6e.exe. So if you see something like this, just close it and go away. If it is truly a Google CAPTCHA, then you really don't have to worry. But just know that there's a lot of pieces out there. And one thing I wanted to go over was, when you see something that's too good to be true, like, oh, if you send me 2 ETH, I'll give you 4 ETH back, those type of scams. There's also scams that have happened to a couple users in this group, where you'll see an ad, you'll click on the ad because you'll see something that is really kind of inviting. Like here, I got a text message. I got 3 of these all in a row. And it says, if you want to work for us and you can earn some great money, because I guess I can earn from $50 to $500 a day. And all I need to do is call this number. And this is a total scam. If someone is offering you this, just walk away. Actually, where it says report junk, click on that and report the junk. But there are so many different types of scams out there. And one of the scams that happened to a couple users this week was they saw an ad for maybe something free on the internet, and all you had to do was pay for shipping. Well, how can you really get something of value for just paying for shipping? Well, you can't. And so, the process was click on the ad, fill out all the information, your name, your address, your phone number, your email address, all the information that a scammer would love to have, along with your credit card. And the bank rejected it because they said it was fraud. Well, that was just the beginning. They now have someone, and I would call you as a mark, someone that's willing to click on an ad and try to get something for free and just pay for shipping. You're going to be put on a long list of, this is kind of a sucker and he's or she is willing to do something for nothing. And I would never put myself on that list. Well, the bank said it was fraud and they thought it was the end of it. Well, then they started to get emails saying, we want you to pay for this. If not, we're going to do you some bodily harm. We know your address. We knew all this information. Well, you gave the information to them, so they're just going to use it against you. So if it's too good to be true, which most likely it is, just don't pay attention. Don't click on any ads. I keep on saying that. Go search for something. Actively search for it. Don't have it delivered to you and then click on it. My system in my home, I don't see ads. Here, now that I'm traveling, I see more ads. Just ignore them. Don't fall for it because you'll pay for it in the long run. So we're going to go on to crypto news. China still controls 55% of Bitcoin hash rate despite crypto ban. I didn't know it was that high. Chinese Bitcoin miners still control the lion's share of the global network despite the country's ban on cryptocurrencies. Over 55% of Bitcoin mining network is still controlled by Chinese mining pools, according to Qi-Young Zhu, founder and CEO of CryptoQuant. Chinese mining pools operate 55% of the network, while the U.S. pools manage 40%. U.S. pools primarily cater to institutional miners in America, while Chinese pools support relatively smaller miners in Asia. The other part that I thought was really interesting in this article was on July 14th, Galaxy Digital CEO Mike Novogratz shared an X posting that has been hearing reports suggesting China is likely, quote, likely to unban Bitcoin by late 2024. If that is true, that's going to be a whole new market of people that are interested in crypto. So let's see if that happens.
Hey, George,
Oh, yep, yep.
did you happen to notice that China is giving out stimulus checks starting yesterday?
I did. I didn't know that they were stimulus checks, but I heard that they were. They're turning on the printing press.
Yeah, I mean they've had the printing press on, but now to actually go back to sending out stimulus checks where you're actually stimulating the general populace is massive. And I think that's why Neo's popping. I think that's why SHIB's popping. Of course, SHIB has also burned almost half their tokens in a year. They had like what was it, 900 and I think 93 trillion. They now have 583 trillion coins, trillion coins.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Chinese flavors are popping because those people are going to be flush with money. I
Well,
mean, the
yeah, and
stimulus checks were going out initially to the poor and people that were unfortunate. But believe me, when you send money out to the populace, it makes its way to assets, and they don't have assets like we do over here. So anyway, just while you were on China, I thought I'd mention that.
yeah, well, it seems like when you send checks directly to individuals, that's typically when you see more inflation because it's going right into retail. Whereas when it goes into other avenues, it seems to go into more of the higher level investments like stocks and bonds and crypto. But when you give it directly to people, they're going to go to Amazon and they're going to start buying things, and we'll see where inflation goes in
Yeah,
China and here. So
Alibaba,
token. Oh, go ahead.
going to Alibaba.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Tokenized asset market to hit 10 trillion by 2030, Chainlink reports. So Chainlink, a decentralized Oracle provider, has released a report forecasting that global tokenization asset market could surge to 10 trillion by 2030. Chainlink outlines how institutional adoption and regulatory progression drive raise the tokenized assets globally despite the recent volatility in the crypto markets. According to the Chainlink report, the current value of tokenized assets sits at approximately 118 billion, primarily on the Ethereum dominating the market, holding 58% of all tokenized assets. The report highlights that tokenized assets can bring liquidity to historically illiquid assets like real estate, private equity, and representing those assets as digital on-chain tokens. So it's going to be interesting as we kind of progress that way. And this isn't necessarily talking about, the crypto tokens themselves. These are, hard assets that are being tokenized, and it looks like 58% are on Ethereum. Bitcoin outperforms nearly every asset class this past year. So Bitcoin has outperformed almost every asset class in the past 12 months, but recent drawdown has investors spooked, according to a September 19th report by asset manager VanEck. VanEck expects Bitcoin long-term bull market to continue for the foreseeable future, adding that Bitcoin adoption as an investment vehicle isn't driven by the same forces as it was in 2023. Bitcoin's price appreciation this year is better explained by growing adoption as money, a vehicle for storing and transferring value. In January, the United States regulators authorized the listing of spot BTC exchange traded funds, which now command approximately 55 billion in assets, according to the data. So things have changed, and this is where we as a group really need to keep up to date on what has changed. It is institutions obviously that have come in and invested in Bitcoin. Now there's ETFs, they're probably doing the same, but it's not as much to Ethereum. I guess Ethereum is not as strong as what they were hoping, but I think that will change in the future too. And back to stablecoins, because I think stablecoins have a big I'm reading a lot about stablecoins, and I know that basically says, adoption is going to come as stablecoins first, and then maybe some of the other cryptos later. But people understand when something stays stable as a stablecoin, then they can explore the different crypto space. But stablecoins will drive institutional adoption in Asia, Chainalysis CEO. Singapore, stablecoins will drive institutional adoption in Asia, even if regulators are not happy with it, Chainalysis co-founder CEO Michael Grunger said in an interview in Token 2049 in Singapore. One of the things we have seen the biggest trend in crypto right now, and probably the killer app, is something as mundane as stablecoins, he said. 2/3 of all transactions in transaction volume on blockchains are stablecoins. That's a lot of adoption. PayPal enables business accounts to buy, hold, and sell cryptocurrencies. PayPal announced it is enabling its US merchants to buy, hold, and sell cryptocurrencies directly from their PayPal business accounts. At launch, the functionality for business accounts will not be available in New York State. Sorry, New York. Wah, wah. Today's announcement is PayPal's latest step to increase cryptocurrency utility by making increased functionality available to millions of merchants in the US. Now, just to let you know, your personal PayPal account has been able to use crypto for quite some time, well over, like maybe it's been 2 years or so. They did not allow the business side to do that for whatever regulatory or reasons, but now you can as a business. So this is for everybody holding Theta or T-Fuel, but Edge Cloud for mobile released today. That was yesterday, unleashing AI computing on 3.9 billion Android devices. Sorry, Mac iOS. In the biggest leap forward in Theta's history, the mobile version of the Theta Edge node for Android devices launched yesterday, September 25th. The mobile Edge node extends Theta's Edge Cloud's existing network to over 30,000 desktop nodes to potentially into computing resources of 3.9 billion active Android devices globally. But if you're going to do it, you might want to think about not necessarily doing it while you're walking around, because I'm sure that it is going to consume battery, and you don't want to be out and about and then all of a sudden have your battery die. So users will also have the option to only run mobile Edge node jobs when the device is on Wi-Fi and plugged in and charging, for instance, overnight while asleep. That's my recommendation. Technology news. We are going to move on to Telegram. Telegram now shares users' IP and phone numbers on legal requests. Telegram will now share phone numbers and IP addresses with law enforcement if they are found to be violating the platform's rules following a valid legal request. According to the newly updated privacy policy, Telegram will comply with such requests only after receiving a valid court order confirming that the user is suspect in a criminal case that breaches the platform's terms of service. Previously, Telegram's policy limited sensitive user information sharing to cases involving terror suspects. Quote, if Telegram receives a valid order from the relevant judicial authorities that confirms you're a suspect in case involving criminal activities that violates the Telegram terms of service, we will perform a legal analysis of the request and may disclose your which means they will, may disclose your IP address and phone numbers to the relevant authorities. So just be aware, it's not like it was before. Things always change. And if they asked, they will give. So Anchor warns people to stop using some of its iPhone power banks. It's interesting. Someone contacted me with a support ticket earlier this week and said, hey, there was a little power bank, a wireless, battery that you could put on your iPhone. Which one was it? So I looked it up on Amazon and I sent it over to that person. And then the next day, here we go. So if you have an Anchor power bank, go ahead. I will leave a link to this article, but it's all about lithium. The lithium-ion battery in the affected power banks can overheat, potentially causing melting of plastic components, smoke, and fire hazards, the notice reads. Anchor claims that only products made from January 3rd to September 17th are affected, but says it's recalling all units out of abundance of caution. Anchor says the people who own these products should immediately stop using it. Owners should store the affected products in a safe location, aka outside, and use Anchor's website to verify the device's serial numbers before filling out a recall form and getting a replacement. I put my information in. I guess I got it, so long ago that mine was good. But if you do have one, I highly recommend checking this out, and seeing if you need to replace it. macOS Sequoia change breaks network for VPNs, antivirus software. And we did have a couple users that used the Tech Only Telegram channel to say, hey, I just upgraded and I was affected, but someone else in my family wasn't. And so it's kind of hit and miss who it might happen to, who might it not happen to, but just be aware. And there are workarounds now, but users of Mac OS 15 are reporting network connection errors when using certain endpoint detection and response, or EDR, or virtual private network solutions and web browsers. In the non-public bulletin seen by Bleeping Computer, CrowdStrike has advised customers not to update to Mac OS 15 because it changes in the operating system's network structure. People have also reported intermittent connectivity issues with Molvad VPN and corporate VPN products they use for remote work through although Proton VPN is reporting working fine with its latest Mac OS release. And I can confirm I'm using Proton VPN while I'm traveling, and I have not had any issues. I haven't had any issues at all since I've upgraded. I do like some of the things. In fact, I did get the iPhone 16. I like it. I wouldn't put money into this one unless you have an older one that has a bad battery or you really need to upgrade. I only upgraded, like I tell you, because my mom needs a new phone, and so she gets my 15. I get a new one. It's a lot of work kind of upgrading things. I lose some of my signal that was on my phone, even though they said that, scan this with your camera and we'll suck it all over. It didn't work. So fortunately, I have a desktop version that has some of that data, but it's kind of a lot of work because I have to resync my watch and other things in the car. And so, it is a lot of work upgrading the phones nowadays. But because my mom needed a phone, well, I thought I'd get that to her. So Apple, Google Wallets now support California driver's license. So all of you that are in California, and I know there's quite a few, you can put your driver's license on your iPhone. I think it's a great idea. And, I know people are worried like, oh, they have this information. Well, it's in a secure area. It's in the wallet area. I put my credit cards in the wallet area, and I don't really fear that much because here's the story. So my husband was traveling, and he left his wallet at home, and he was probably about 3 hours away and had no credit card, no driver's license, nothing. But he did have his Apple Watch with Apple Pay on it. And so fortunately, he was able to purchase gasoline to continue his travels. Otherwise, I would have had to get in the car and go help him out. So having some of those added features is really important. He was actually traveling the next day, and he was traveling on his passport instead of his driver's license. So if you have that on your phone, TSA will honor that. But California residents can now store their driver's license or state ID on their Apple Wallet app, and state's government announced on Thursday. California started allowing digital IDs through Google Wallets just last month. Other states already support digital driver's licenses and state IDs, including Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, Maryland, and Ohio. To load your Apple ID on your Apple Wallet app, you need to click on the plus button at the top of the screen and then choose driver's license or state ID. From there, you need to follow the online instructions to add that to your wallet. So it's something to think about for all you California residents. And this one I thought was just kind of cool because we're going to end on this cool note. But Apple breaks down iPhone 16 repair process. As noted on Wednesday, Apple quietly took steps to improve the iPhone 16's repairability in addition to adding a new list of repairable components. The company introduced a clever new method for removing the phone's battery. On Friday, Apple published a step-by-step instructions for swapping out the new handset's battery. Glue has long been the arch enemy of do-it-yourself repair people. It also became ubiquitous in handset internals as manufacturers have raced to make devices more compact. What makes Apple's new approach novel is that instead of making the phone larger to accommodate more screws, it has introduced an adhesive that loosens its grip on the battery when low voltage is applied. So technology is not just a plug-in. Technology changes happen all the time. So they invented a glue where I guess if you put a 9-volt battery to both sides of it, the glue just magically disappears, and you can change your own battery and other components. So that's all I have for today, Jay.